good old days, political rallies were conducted in designated areas. Nairobi had two major political arenas: the historic KAMUKUNJI grounds on the east end of the CBD and the majestic Uhuru Park that sits right in the middle of the city. Depending on your political weight, you could choose between the 250,000 capacity Uhuru Park or the much smaller KAMUKUNJI grounds. But let's not go into that long story, because State House Nairobi is fast catching up with Nairobi's political venues that recently expanded to include Jacaranda and Babadogo grounds. Tonight, we attend some rallies at State House. And where did they all disappear to? I'm talking about opposition leaders who suddenly appeared to have vanished into thin political air. Records show the united opposition was last seen naming a joint spokesperson. So we are scouring the landscape for traces of the opposition. Sam Sense is also scouring the landscape for the numbers between Shah, affordable housing, and maize farms. Bonyo's Bone picks a bone with Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja over an apparent admission of corruption in the police service. Jamila's memo is addressed to ghosts. Anyone with their address, please? Kaikai's Kika wonders why the Kenyan flag looks more beautiful in Tokyo than in Nairobi. And on my take, fresh new notes coming up. Betrayal and dishonesty, the currency of our politics. The gang is here.
You know, sometimes I get into trouble with Kenyans because I walk by faith. Many walk by sight. They say, we have not seen. You are lying, we have not seen. So that's the disconnect sometimes I do have, because it takes time for people to see. We have wasted a lot of time making peace with mediocrity, working with the average, when God wants us to be excellent.
Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. The hashtag is NewsGang at Citizen TV Kenya, at Yvonne Okwara. What we have just heard from the President of the Republic of Kenya is now a refrain that we're hearing quite a bit in the country at the moment. And let's start with you, Jay. I mean, you know, one of the things we're seeing, I mean, this was said today outside of State House when he was meeting evangelical leaders, I believe closing a conference they were having. But we've heard this and much more at what is now the epicenter, which is State House. Delegation after delegation. I believe we have seen those from Kisii, Nyamira? Murang'a. Kiambu.
Yeah.
Teachers.
In fact, in the past month, Yvonne, there have been 10 delegations.
Young people who are going into State House. It would seem that is ground zero for all the action at the moment.
Indeed it is. And for me, this is Ruto 2.0. He's reviving the 2022 script. And if you recall, as Deputy President, there is a letter in November of 2021 that was written by Karen residents where they complained of characters loitering in Karen that are suspicious but all headed to the Deputy President's residence. They also complained of traffic gridlock that was unusual in their quiet and serene residential areas. So that tells you this is Ruto's political roadmap. Meeting delegation. In fact, if you remember in 2021, around September, there's a story we must have done that indicated that he had hosted about 35 delegations in a period of 2 months as he was campaigning for the presidency. So what we are seeing at State House is simply his playbook that as president, he is perfecting what he did as deputy president, meeting grassroots mobilizers and people who matter that would give him access to the wider crowds. So in places where he cannot go, for obvious reasons, like Kiambu, like Muranga and all that, he is doing a well-curated audience that comes to his base and is able to wow them. This morning I was listening over the radio to one of the people who went to State House on Saturday, and in his words, he said, if you are in State House, you don't believe you are in the rest of the country. And then the presenter asked why, and he says the goodies that you come out with. And this is a union official, a senior union official, saying that the goodies that are presented, and I think for them it is easier because once you get it, you don't have the struggle to once again distribute it to the rest of the people. Yeah. Everybody lives with his own. So Ruto is basically reviving his 2022 plan, meeting delegations, and ensuring that while at it, he also dishes. Remember we said last week that he is a dealer in hope. And it dishes particular investments or what would call development promises. Some that are obviously off rail because if you look at the current budget, they are not supported. But because the delegations are not keen on such, they'll simply appreciate and take back word. So his gospel goes back, and those people basically says, I was there, we were told, and he promised. So sometimes some of these people are very influential, and once they hit the ground, their words are taken as gospel truth. So in as much as he repeatedly says that wakati wa campaign bado na nitakuja kuonana na nyinyi siku za campaign, this is campaign. This is campaigns, because where he is handicapped for not going out and doing the whistle-stop tours that he was used to in 2021 and 2022 early, because of presidential commitments, now he brings them closer. And dishes everything and wows them with promises of development and all that. So for me, typical William Samoei Ruto, delegations and delegations and delegations as he tries to wing them for the 2027 general election.
Yeah, and I like what you said about, now you are in my playpen, and it's actually a show of power and might, huh? That,
exactly.
Which is different from when he's going out to them and he's on the rooftops and he's speaking to them. But this is now his...
He controls it.
Yes. I believe there was a part where he said, it's my house right now, and the occupant at this point in time, and I'll decide who comes in.
Even the setup, for instance, the setup that they had with the teachers last Friday was different. There was a whole ramp, before we have seen them seated like watching, wamekaa wote wanatazama, whoever speaks goes and speaks and comes and sits down. But you're starting to see now that what was the difference with the teachers. There was a ramp in the middle and they were seated on both sides, so he'd walk across and talk to them and all that. And that particular one stands out because one of the numbers, we're not exactly sure how many teachers were there. We're told about 10,000 of them. And two, it turned out into this is my scorecard kind of event. This is what I've done for teachers. This is what I've employed this number of teachers. I think 72,000. I'm going to employ 100,000 by January. This is what we're going to do. But then before even these people arrive at State House, there's a lot that goes on behind there, mobilizing them.
Yeah.
So unaambua sasa wewe tunaleta watu wa Nairobi, so wabunge wa Nairobi wale wako kwa serikali, maseneta, ma MCA, so ni kazi yao, pengine unaambua wewe leta watu 10. So there's this whole mobilization that starts.
Yeah.
And then when someone hears that you talk about my playpen, ninaenda State House. Ile hadhi iko na State House. Yeah, I think during previous regimes, I remember during President Moi's time and then Kibaki's time, it was very rare to go to State House, even as journalists.
Yeah.
But then now here is you're going to State House. Nani atakataa kwenda? So unajua hapo watu wanapoambia mnaelekea State House, people will find their way there. They will come. They will travel overnight. You'll sleep on the road. Utarauka asubuhi ufike pale. And so that you can actually see how State House looks like. And then you expect to leave there with something.
Yeah.
Huwezi toka huko tu mkono mtupu.
bure tu hivyo.
Wezi, utatoka na kitu. I don't know, we are being told that with the teachers so 10,000 shillings each. We don't know, Miss Kuepo, Kuepo, I think none of us on this table were there. But then you expect that you'll come out with something. But then the question is, people should come out with something that's a bit more long-term than what is given as handout there. Because you talk about promises that are made, JB, that tutafanya hii, but what exactly is more tangible, more long-term than the handout? Number two, Yvonne, remember when we had the young people who were there a couple of weeks back, and we saw, and that was the first time, we saw all the borders, we saw generators, we saw machines za kusafisha magari, machines za DJs, machines za nywele. Those are tangible. I mean, hey, ukipatiwa we machine ya blow dry nini, and then you can go and start a small business. If you're given something a DJ, you can go start doing something. But then there's this whole controversy that surrounded it, that people didn't actually live with those things that they were promised.
Yeah.
So the list that I think, if they're going to continue down this route, to have these delegations coming, then make sure tunatoka pale na kitu ambacho kitabadilisha maisha yao. Because Yvonne, there is no law that stops President William Ruto from inviting people to State House. I mean, hakuna sheria itasema hufai kuruhusu mtu. You can invite whoever you want. Akuje pale anavotaka. But then the question arises with, so where is the money that's being handed out coming from? Hizi ni pesa gani? And you talk about how some of the promises that are made, where are they anchored in? Which policy, which budget, which... So it's just kusema tu, and then we'll see what happens in the end. Ama it's kusema and actually find a way of implementing what you're promising, Yvonne. Where's the money coming from? Maswali ni mengi. But then people go to State House expecting much. Then you should at least give them a bit more than the handout.
Well, you know, some of those things, actually most of them should be decided on the floor of the House of Parliament, because that is where budgets are made, allocations are decided. So obviously we've seen two prongs, right? So there's the promises, which I will get to you, Sam, in a moment, because there's been quite a bit that's been said on housing and how many houses and who's going to get what. But then there's also what is being used here as a base to address his political opponents, and also to woo those who seemingly might have strayed a little. I want us to listen to a couple of these where he was speaking to those from Mount Kenya when he hosted the people of Murang'a, where he was, you know, essentially reminding them of the relationship they had from 2022.
Na kuna watu wanajidanganya ati mimi ati nitawachana na watu wa Murang'a. Those people wanaota ndoto ya mchana. Sasa mimi nataka niwaulize, watu walinipatia kura mpaka nikakuwa rais, nitawachana na wao kwa sababu gani?
And then he went on to, of course, talk to watu wa Mlima. Again, this whole tribal question, I'd like us to listen to that. 1-5.
Wale watu walimaliza ukabila Kenya hii ni watu wa hii Mlima. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Kuna wengine wanafikiria wanaweza kuturudisha kwa ukabila. Mimi nataka niwaambie, kama unatafuta mambo ya ukabila, tafuta dunia ingine, tafuta nchi ingine. Hii Kenya tutashikana vile tumeshikana.
Ile hatuwezi kukubali ni mtu kwa sababu ya kimbelembele ya kujitakia makuu, kuleta msukosuko katika jamii, kuleta maafa, kuleta ugomvi na chuki. That one we cannot agree.
And that is Deputy President Kithure Kindiki. My guess is he was responding to his predecessor, to whom also President William Ruto spoke about on what Gachagua has been saying about what he would do if he would be elected president.
Ati wanataka kuja kusimamisha housing, wakuja wasimamishe universal health coverage, wasimamishe funding ya university. Hiyo ni strategy. Sio ni ujinga. Ama ni upumbavu. Ama ni yote mbili.
So you can see this is definitely addressing certain political issues in the country. Before we come to you with the promises, I want you to note, like you were saying, the setup of how they're on the side. But you also note how the footage is taken. We almost see his back in almost all of these delegation meetings, and then we see the crowds and the masses of people who are at State House. Communication is about a lot of things. It's about what's said, but it's also about visuals. And I guess the idea is to show, as you can see that, the hundreds of people who are there. I understand, was it this one, Murang'a, where there was supposed to be 3,000 who were invited, and they said
double the number
showed up, and they allowed all of them in the end. But I don't know if you've noticed that setup. We saw that with the teachers. We've seen that with Murang'a. I believe we saw that with, was it Kisii and Nyamira as well? So you see him, and then you see this backdrop of hundreds of people sitting and clapping, and of course jubilant with everything he says. It's a picture that is shown to just everyone, you know, those on the opponent's side, but also to Mwananchi, that wait, there were these number of people that were there. There must be some form of support. So, you know, there's also quite a bit of a play there with that in terms of a campaign rhetoric. But, so not only is it bringing the people, giving them a little something to go home with, there's also mega promises. Sam, you are on that trail this week. I mean, I watched the break and I was surprised when you did the breakdown of houses and just about everything else that's being promised during these delegations.
Right, from the onset, it has to be said that those are just political meetings. There's nothing like consultation with the grassroots leaders, nothing like that. These are just political meetings to sort of reignite or re-energize the place of the Kenya Kwanza administration in the hearts and minds of the people across different parts. But also, you have to reflect on how did we get here. Just before these meetings started, there had been that very controversial parliamentary group between ODM and UDA, which was on the 18th of August 2025. And you recall the reactions that followed. Members of Parliament went to the House the following day on the 19th of August, and there were the case of President William Ruto calling him out and saying that there's nothing you haven't done for this president. For him to turn against us is something they couldn't comprehend. But there was a lot of agitation amongst many members of Parliament, including those that come from the Mount Kenya region as well as those that come from the Rift Valley region. But you also realize that on the floor of the House, majority of those that spoke are members of Parliament from the ODM party, very few from UDA, but especially people that have since decamped from UDA and associating themselves with DCP and the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. So there is a way that following that fallout with the members of Parliament, there was a quick solution that was found, that it's time now to engage the grassroots, because you may have fallen out of favor with the leadership. Let's now go to the ground. And how do you do that? Don't go visiting, because that takes a lot of energy and time. And there's no really good justification why you would be doing that. So how about you invite people to come to State House and you address them? And that's why you've been seeing a lot of thousands of them. I think the first one was a Kiambu delegation, where a lot of leaders appeared, a lot of people from the grassroots appeared, and the conversations were after every statement, you hear people shouting and showing the two-finger salute to say two-term. So that's not a consultation with the public, because if it were a consultation, then what are the resolutions that came from that meeting? Instead, what do you hear? You see the president reading out pronouncements of what is going to be done. For instance, Kiambu County, I think he announced projects that would total to more than 40 billion shillings. Some of them, of course, the affordable housing units that are supposed to amount to about 15,000 at the cost of 30 billion shillings. But at the same time, there were other programs, roads and what you call markets, and at the same time stadia that he was promising. Similar promises were repeated when he met the Murang'a delegation. Just wanted to take a look at some of the dates. So after those events, on the 27th of August, he met Kiambu delegation. On the 2nd of September, he met a delegation from Turkana, and even them too, there were some promises which I want to just highlight as some of them, which have to do with including a fish market that was agreed upon, costing about 2.5 billion shillings. Let me just get that correctly for you. Yes, so 2.5 billion shillings for tackle irrigation scheme expansion so that more people can access that water. 2.3 billion shillings for hostels in Turkana. 700 million shillings for 2 fish markets in Turkana again. And yes, the others are different. Then after that, after the 2nd September meeting, there was a meeting on the 11th of September with the leadership from the Gusii region, both Kisii and Nyamira counties, and you saw some of the leaders, including the governor of Kisii, Simba Arati, appearing there and addressing the meeting that was.
Gituku, sorry if I may interrupt. We have the sound bites for some of those conversations you're on about.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if we should listen to what he talked about in Kisii and Murang'a.
Yeah.
Robert? Yeah.
Every big township in Kenya today, the largest housing estate ni affordable housing. Kisumu, Homa Bay, Eldoret, Nakuru, Kericho, Murang'a, hapa Makenji, kule Nyeri, mkienda Ruringu, pale karibu na Ruringu, tunajenga nyumba 5,000 hapo Nyeri town. Tunajenga nyumba Machakos, Mombasa, everywhere. Tuko na sites, 215 sites across Kenya. Soko tunajenga soko 400 Kenya mzima. Hostels tunajenga ya watoto 170,000. Hostels ya vijana wetu. We are going to build 10,000 units in Kisii town, so that you begin to internalize how Kisii town is going to look when you see Mukuru. Tumeweka kujenga hostels ambayo I will come in the course of next month or the month after kuzianzisha 9,040 units ambayo itapatia nafasi ya watoto wenu. Tumeweka another 4.5 billion. A total, kwa hiyo program tatu, a total of 40 billion shillings katika Kiambu County.
Yeah, so listen to that. The very many promises. And of course, there's a question that must be asked. So you're dishing out this. There's an affordable housing board that is supposed to make those decisions. Is this in consultation with them that this announcement is being made? And if there's work that Parliament was supposed to do in deciding what is supposed to be done, has Parliament done it? Because when you're allocating resources for building of stadia, that is not within Affordable Housing Board, which is, you would say that the law allows it to make certain independent decisions. But I was just highlighting the meetings and the sequence. So Kiambu, 27th of August, Turkana, 2nd of September, Gusii region, 11th of September, 12th of September, you have Murang'a County reporting. And then 13th of September, who was there? It was the teachers.
Yes.
And actually, please don't feel afraid. It was 10,000 because this was confirmed by the chairperson of the KUPPET.
Yes.
He would know. Mboko Milemba, he was here on the show.
He said there were 10,000.
And he said that 10,000 shillings is what was given to each of the teachers. Do the quick math, that's about 100 million shillings before they ate. And I think they ate and they drank. So you can imagine the cost of hosting that meeting. And obviously
also, were they transported?
Oh, yeah.
Highly likely?
Yes.
Highly likely they were given some facilitation to get there?
So when you look at all that cost of hosting and where it's coming from, I asked some members of Parliament where the funding could be coming from, and they could not trace, they could not put a finger to the vote, the specific vote. But you may also want to realize that over the past 1 year, ending June 2025, the travel budget, if you had to compare year on year, there was a growth of 1 billion shillings in travel. Could it be that some of these resources of hosting delegations and facilitating transport reimbursement could be being accounted as the travel expenditure? In that meeting also, there were some promises that were made to the teachers. That is on Saturday. I want us to just listen to what the president said about capitation, the challenges, and what the promise is moving forward.
Whatever the gap is, we have a gap of almost 800 in primary school and a gap of about 5,000 in secondary schools. Sindio? So what we will do, the next financial year, we will reduce that gap by half and close the gap in the following financial year. The Ministry of Education is properly informed so that whatever resources we have to find from wherever place, we have to close that gap in the next 2 cycles.
So that's on the promise of on capitation.
Yeah.
There are challenges there. There's already a commitment that it is going to be resolved in the next 1 or 2 years. But Parliament has to do some bit of work, which is there are no consultations there. Let's then listen into the question of teachers' promotion and how the teachers were able to get a concession from the President.
We have 400,000 teachers, almost 500. It will take a while if we go at this rate. So my suggestion is that we will double the resources available for teacher promotion. From next, Diana, so that instead of promoting 25,000, we will do 50,000. My instructions to the ministry is that we double the money. We have been providing 1 billion shillings. We should provide 2 billion shillings and whatever is required so that the teachers, so that at least we can promote 50,000 teachers every year.
So before you say anything, let's hear what the Secretary General of NAT said after that.
As a Secretary General on behalf of teachers, members of Kenya National Union of Teachers, I want to say, Kumi bila break. Kumi bila break. Broad-based government is the way to go.
So there's the declaration. The Teachers Union NAT has declared, and perhaps the 10,000 teachers who are at State House have declared, it is Kumi bila break. But with all those promises, they require money. The government at the moment is spending 702 billion shillings, which is 28% of the national revenue. The Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury, John Badi, is already saying this is unsustainable, and therefore we need to have a conversation of how much we should be financing when it comes to national examinations. Indeed, he has said in this studio that for parents who can afford, they should actually go ahead and pay for the examination fee. Then the President comes and promises all these things. From which money?
Never mind, as we take a break, that teachers were the ones who were lamenting about the increments that they got, remember?
Yep.
It wasn't even more than 2 months ago, where they said some of them ended up getting 29 shillings, 64. But now you see that. And I think that last soundbite was actually the culmination of what this was all about. You know, singing the political slogan. Let's take a break. We come back. We have more to talk about, more delegations, more promises, and also we're on the watch for the opposition. United, Kenya, Kenya Moja, One Kenya, all of those. Where are they? But in response to what the president is doing. We'll be right back. This is NewsGang.